Welcome to the Resource Podcast, where we take a slightly sassy, fully feminist approach to creating healthy relationships and a joyful life. I'm your host, Tatiana Thompson, and I'm a licensed professional counselor practicing in both Arizona and Minnesota. I specialize in applying clinically proven techniques like EMDR, parts work, and neural reprogramming to help you see real, lasting change in your everyday life. Just remember, I am a licensed therapist, but I'm not your therapist. This show is for informational purposes only, and it's not a replacement for seeking personal mental health or medical advice. So join me now as we explore simple strategies for breaking toxic relationship patterns and applying simple mental health tools to your daily life. Learn how to take the small steps today that will guide you to your best life tomorrow. Hello and welcome to the Resourced Podcast, the show that invites you to question everything you thought you knew about relationships and mental health so you can finally break through your stuck points and create the life you've always wanted. I'm your host, Tatiana, and I'm on a mission to help 1,000 women become emotionally and financially independent so they can choose a relationship instead of needing one. And I do want to give you a heads up today. We do have a new family edition. We have a sweet Airedale/Doodle poodle mix. She has been added to our wonderful family now. So there's a chance you're going to hear her and my other dog, Bear, doing whatever they're doing because they're getting to know each other better. But so far it's going really well. Also still in a construction zone, so you might see that. Final announcement is I'm doing all these videos on camera now. So if you're listening on Apple or Spotify and you like video, go ahead and check it out over on YouTube. You can look for the Resourced Podcast or look up my name and it should bring you to it. Okay, so today's episode is building off of last week's episode regarding shame, how it's driving our behaviors and why it keeps failing us. So that's what we did last week. So if you want to catch up on all of that, go check out last week's episode. I obviously think it had some good content in it. But just to summarize, here's the long and short of it. Most of us are being driven by shame and fear to meet societal expectations for things that really may not be very much aligned for us, but we were told they were important. We do this because a part of us develops in childhood to protect us from rejection, and it becomes like an internal shaming voice that represents those people. So what it does is it catches all the things that we were being criticized or rejected for, and then it shames us into correcting them before others can notice them, or at least that's the goal. It doesn't always happen beforehand, but that's the goal. Now, does that mean it's always effective at getting us to stop the behaviors to get us rejected? No, it's not always effective, right? But it is always there because it's always going, oh my gosh, stop doing that. Or why did you do that? And now look how awful you are. And that's the great irony of this. It's not really effective at the job. It's trying to do a really important job. So in the end, we're living in an abusive mind space for very little gain. So it's not a win-win here. And even worse than that, shame is supposed to be fixing our problem of loneliness and low self-worth, right? That's really, we deduced that in the last episode. It's all about helping us find connection again. But it's actually the thing keeping us small and therefore leading a lonely and unfulfilling life or a less connected life than we actually could have and deserve. When we follow shame's rules, we never express ourselves fully. We operate from low self-esteem and we attract less ideal relationships and situations as a result of that. So if shame is actually causing the problem that it's supposed to be solving, right, which is like make me worthy of connection, security, and love, then what is the antidote? That's what we're going to cover today. Because here's the great paradox about life. The opposite is usually the medicine. Let's go through the step-by-step process for catching shame in its tracks and trying something that actually works. I want to warn many of you, it's going to be so opposite of what you're used to that it's going to make you uncomfortable and you're going to think, nah, that won't work. But as I like to say in other episodes, I dare you to give it a try. What's the risk? Give it a try. I also want to add, please be sure to supplement this work with other parts work. So you can do that through your own therapy. Or another podcast I've been referring people to is Sarah Baldwin's podcast called You Make Sense. She does a great job of breaking down parts work and really giving you fantastic tools for how to have those conversations. One other resource I'd like to provide you with is a woman on Instagram, and her handle is at your wise mom friend. At your wise mom friend. And oh my gosh, she has the most beautiful examples of talking to your parts. And she's talking to her parts in the scenes. I can't help it. I cry almost every single time because I know what that feeling is like. So give her a look too, because you will learn some amazing skills just checking out her content. I don't know if she's on other platforms. I just know her on Instagram. All right. So this is a beautiful skill set, and it can really help you change your life because, as we talked about in the first episode, bullying, shame, fear never actually works in the long run. The most powerful thing that we can do is use compassion and empathy and care with healthy boundaries and structure. So I'm going to use the example that we used last episode as we walk through this, and that's for the continuity of it. It'll be the example of how women are always trying to make themselves smaller and thinner because of what society pressure has been put on them. So let's start with step number 1. When we want to break the cycle, first thing we have to name is that it's happening, right? So step number 1 is identify that you're criticizing yourself, that the voice is happening inside of you right now. The introject, remember that term, is active and is criticizing you. So notice that and name what that shaming message is in your head. So for the example of the person who's trying to make herself smaller, maybe you catch yourself criticizing your belly or a part of your body when you look in the mirror, or you notice that your waistband is a little tight when you're sitting there. It could also go to the next step of planning out your next dieting or exercise plan, like, ugh, I really need to cut sugar again, or totally cut out some other food group, or something like, that's it this week, I'm going to the gym 5 days no matter what. So either of those could be examples. So it's either a criticism or it's a plan in action, okay? Step number 2, ask it what it's trying to protect you from. So this is when it gets a little more nuanced, okay? So the first step is a little more clear. By the way, first step's very, very hard because we don't realize we're doing this all the time. But step 2 is, now I want to start understanding the deeper need that it's trying to solve for me. So maybe it's trying to make sure you seem attractive so that your partner or potential dates don't lose interest, and you feel wanted in the world. Maybe it's trying to make sure that a family member, like maybe your mom, had a lot of pressure from her family and put pressure on you. Maybe this part of you doesn't want your mom to disapprove, even if it's silently. Trust me, we all know internally what that feels like as well. We don't even need someone to overtly tell us that they disapprove. So all of this in this step comes down to protecting us from rejection, abandonment, and exclusion. Now let's take that to step 3 a little bit deeper. Name what it's trying to get for you. So the first version of that was, what is it trying to prevent, right? Now I want you to ask, what is it trying to obtain for you to keep you safe? Because this part, by the way, doesn't care about your size. Your size is actually completely irrelevant to everything in your life, believe it or not. But it does care about being approved of, being accepted, being wanted, being loved. So identify those core or interpersonal needs that your part is seeking through a partner, through family, through friends, through job success, all of that. What is it trying to earn you through this behavior? Okay. So now we know what it's afraid of, but we also know what it wants. Take your time with these. They might feel kind of weird. And if it feels a little surface, like, oh, this is the obvious answer, but it doesn't click into place and make you feel either a little emotional or maybe a little anxious, you might not have landed on the truth of it yet. Now, let's go into step number 4. This is the hardest part, okay? I'm afraid to tell you. I want you to thank the part that's been criticizing you. And I know it will feel very hard because this part has been really mean to you through the years and you're tired of it and it hurts. But I want you to remember this. Its core mission has been always number one, protect you. It is everything it's done is driven by that mission. Protect you from loss, keep you connected to people. So, what does thanking it look like? Validate that you understand why it's been using this method. Because it didn't have another option, right? No one taught it to love you into health or to connection. No one taught you that. No one modeled that. No one made that actually possible, maybe in some cases. So let it know, oh, I see what you're doing, and I understand that it's for my own good. I don't like your methods anymore, but I appreciate you. I appreciate that this was never meant to be harmful. It was just meant to save me. Also, let it know, this is going to sound strange, but let it know how sorry you are. Not that you did anything wrong, but you're sorry that it had to do such an unpleasant job all by itself all these years. And I don't know if you feel that. I feel that softening in my chest when I say that. And maybe that's because I've done a lot of parts work. But nobody wants to be the bad guy. And this part didn't feel like it had any other choice. It has been suffering. And think about this, your part has been hated by you, by the whole system that is you, and has taken the hit for the team of being isolated and unwanted so that you wouldn't be isolated and unwanted. What a gift. What a kindness. This part is trying to love you and protect you. This can be such a beautiful step, and you might feel a big sigh or relief or even an emotional release when this happens because the part is so grateful. It finally feels understood instead of hated or fought against. And it implies that maybe you can take it to the next step of caring about this part and meeting the need so it can put its guard down, connect with you, trust you, and you can start meeting the need in a way that doesn't create grief and pain and disconnection. If you don't feel that release right away, please don't worry. You just need to keep coming back to these exercises and start building that relationship and trust with the part so that it can finally see that you won't abandon it and shame it anymore. Because that's what you've been doing. You didn't mean to. That's not to shame you either. You didn't know any better. But now that you do, when we know better, we do better. All right. So I hope that step makes sense. This is all about thanking the part, validating why it did what it did, and saying, oh, I'm sorry you had to do this. I am going to choose not to be mad at you anymore. I'm going to choose not to shame you and disconnect from you anymore. I'm going to start to try to listen to you in a different way. I'm going to listen to your actual deeper need, not the surface need of get me skinnier or whatever it is. Your deeper need is to help us stay connected and loved. And that's what I'm going to start to understand so that I can start to meet it for you in a way that feels good. Okay, so step number 5. I want you to think of ways that you can offer this safety to the part and to yourself. So it's been pushing you to get smaller so that you'll be accepted and avoid abandonment, right? Could you start maybe looking at yourself in the mirror as well as talking to the part and explore accepting yourself just as you are, no matter what, and making a genuine promise that you won't abandon yourself anymore for any imperfections? Like, yeah, you can notice that the thought is coming up and you can say, this is where the healthy boundaries come in. Yes, I feel the urge to criticize myself, or yes, I heard the criticism, but I don't let us criticize ourselves anymore. Instead, I'm going to try to focus on what is wonderful about our body, what is wonderful about our personality, what is wonderful about our intelligences and our relationships. Instead of focusing on that, we're going to move another direction. By the way, that doesn't mean you're going to be done with those feelings. Continue working with a therapist and work through those feelings. But the crazy thing is that every time we take the side of society and unrealistic beauty standards, and not even unrealistic, just defining ourselves only through our appearance, we're abandoning ourselves out of fear that others will abandon us. So why don't we skip the middleman and stay steady and accepting of ourselves no matter what, even if some other people will not want us because of it? Because that's actually the inside game. I know this sounds really scary, but here's the amazing thing. If you stop abandoning yourself, if you start accepting yourself as you are, that is all you need to feel safe in the world. I know that sounds crazy, but here's the crazier thing. when you start doing that, and I know I've covered this in other episodes, once you start meeting that need for wholeness inside of yourself, of not abandoning yourself, of accepting yourself, the rest of the world will catch up. You will be exuding a completely different signal to the world, and people will find you irresistible. Now, remember, some people will still find you not irresistible. They will find you repulsive. In fact, the more you are yourself, the more certain people will be repulsed by you. But guess what? They're not your people. And wouldn't it be awful to spend your whole life trying to convince them to like you when they were never your people to begin with? And even if you could get them to just not dislike you, they're never going to feel good because they were never meant to be that close with you. So going back to this, let's skip the middleman. Let's accept ourselves as we are. This is radical acceptance, right? We're not saying that we truly feel this way just yet. We're saying, I'm willing to be ready to accept myself. I'm willing to stop criticizing myself. I'm willing to try something different and consider that not criticizing myself might actually be the solution for the problem. I know it sounds crazy, but what's the worst that could happen? Give it a try for a week. Give it a try for another week and just see what happens. Again, not everyone's going to like you or want you anyway. But wouldn't it be more enjoyable to go through life liking and looking out for yourself instead of trying to earn that type of care through other people who weren't necessarily ever going to be pleased by you? And remember, I'm not saying that we don't need other people, right? But like I said, once we stop trying to earn acceptance, we can actually experience it because we radiate our acceptance of ourselves, which makes us more magnetic in the world. If you find this content helpful, please consider leaving a review or share the episode with a friend. I have a fundamental belief that individual healing is what heals the world. The more you share, the more we can grow, and the more people we can reach with our mission to heal the world, one person at a time. So for the final step, this is going to require a side quest, by the way, so let's get ready. I want you to help your parts end the tug of war that they're in, because what's happening when the introject jumps in is there becomes an imbalance between two parts that are trying to address the issue. So here we go. Parts pendulate between extremes. So this is another good sign that something's going on or you're triggered. If you're feeling like you're going between extremes, you are in a part. Self-energy doesn't go between extremes. It doesn't go overworking, total shutdown. It doesn't go overeating, total restriction. It doesn't do any of that. That's self-energy would be on a completely different playing field, okay? So remember how we named this shame part the introject, right? It's the one that's jumping in saying, oh, there's a problem. You look horrible, or you were stupid in that circumstance, or you made an idiot of us, whatever. That's the introject. Its job is to identify when you're doing something that puts you at risk of getting rejected before anybody else can signal the alarm. But then another part swoops in, and this is a manager part. And it's the one that goes, okay, I heard you. I hear you. We got a problem. What do we do? All right. So in the case of the dieting thing, we need a new diet plan. We need to shape up. We need to get this under control. This is usually some form of an overfunctioning part. So in this case, it's probably one that comes up with restrictive eating plans or extreme gym plans. But the point is, she has an all or nothing response to this whole experience, and she's not satisfied unless you're following a rigid set of rules. And I know y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. The problem is that when we do anything to an extreme, as we already know from the fabulous Sir Isaac Newton, there's always an equal and opposite reaction to any force in the world. So there will be a part of you that essentially has to compensate for this overdoer by underdoing or maybe overindulging. There has to be homeostasis in the system. That is the way the universe works. I'm sure many of you know what I'm talking about. After a few days or weeks of dieting or restrictive eating or extreme gym going, there's a part of you that shows up and says, fuck it. I'm going to eat whatever I want, the hell I want, whenever I want. I'm not going to worry about living up to society standards. This is stupid. I'm not doing this anymore. Off the wagon. We're done. And it's totally understandable because you've been living in this restrictive hell, right? It's too much. This will always happen for any extreme behavior. And it can happen in other circumstances, right? When we overwork, we kill ourselves all day over functioning, making sure everyone's happy with our performance, doing more, finding all the chores, all this stuff. Then at bedtime or nighttime, revenge bedtime, baby, we're going to shut down. We're going to use doom scrolling, extra wine, or any form of, the THC, whatever, excessive sugar, food, staying up too late, because we literally at that point don't know how to turn off this overfunctioner over on this side without kind of drugging ourselves. It's almost like we have to hit a power switch and it's a drug. But the only reason that this fuck it part even had to come online is because we were operating at the other extreme of the spectrum. That overfunctioning part actually caused the underfunctioning part to step in to create balance or homeostasis. Like literally, this overindulgence does not need to exist except because of this extreme overdoing. But we get stuck then in this tug of war. Once they're both activated, it's a tug of war. They get entrenched in their methods because they know once they lose strength and the other part wins, they'll lose all authority over your actions until they can strong arm back into their way again. So it's really extreme. And think about it this way. The more I'm overfunctioning, the more I'm pulling on this side. Once this part actually wins the tug of war, it's a strong swing over in this direction and back again, right? So what if we could bypass that process entirely as well? What if we could avoid either extreme and look at the real need, finding ways to meet it with balance? So remember, extremes, either end of the pendulum. Balance is coming up in a totally different zone. We're not even going between them, by the way. We're getting off the pendulum altogether. Let's take this back to our original example, the push to be skinny, small, therefore acceptable and loved. First off, that we're already working on an inside job of loving ourselves that we talked about earlier, right? I'm not going to try to earn it through other people. I'm going to give it to myself and find that by doing that, other people can't help but offer it to me as well. This will slowly expand into our sphere of how others treat us and accept us, okay? But also, let's look at that need to be small. While that's not a valid need, maybe we do want to be healthy and feel lots of confidence about ourselves. I like to rock climb, and I'll be honest, when I'm a little bit lighter, it's easier. When I'm a little bit better fed, it's easier. I'm stronger. Now, does that mean I need to be small or you need to be small? Nope. But it does mean we need to take care of our bodies. So sometimes the overfunctioner kicks in because, like we said, the overindulger has been in control for too long. So it's not even just shame that has to set it off. It's a need. It's a need to find balance again from being on this pendulum. But again, we don't want to let this one win, the overfunctioner. We want to go ahead and get off the pendulum altogether. So maybe that critical voice came up because you've been really overwhelmed with life. There's a life change. It may have caused you to forego your normal movement routine, and you've noticed you're craving more sugar in the afternoons. By the way, this is getting very personal now. So for myself, this perfect example came up. I can see that I've been finding myself caught in a sugar loop again recently, and I can see that it's correlated with being on camera for these episodes. There's a part of me that feels the need to create protection and hide and comfort myself through those old methods, right? So it's getting activated. So it's finding ways to plump me up a little bit and comfort me. So why don't I just get curious about that? Instead of going, oh my gosh, what the hell is wrong with me? Why am I doing this? I've been eating more sugar. I've been craving more comfort and comfort foods ever since, when did that happen? Oh, since I started going on camera for my episodes. Be gentle with yourself. Identify patterns. Be curious. See if there is a behavior taking place that is not in alignment with your true healthy standards, okay? Side note, this will probably always be behaviors that the fuck it part is doing, okay? And then imagine getting off that pendulum altogether. That's going to look very different than restrictive dieting. Actually, to be true, it won't look very different, but the energy and intention behind it will be very different. So if your strategy has been restricting food or calories, exercising harder, all that kind of stuff, you got to identify that that's the urge, right? That's the other end of the pendulum that you are being invited to go towards, kind of push towards. Then identify the other side that you swing to compensate. I want you to just really build out your graph here, okay, your chart. Carby afternoon snacks for me, drinking a little more alcohol, more screen time, later bedtimes, fewer walks, less movement. Now, what would actually be a balanced goal and action plan for you? So, by the way, if you get the urge to do more restriction, you're probably not on the right track. I want you to step back and recognize that's the overfunctioning or restrictive part. This will look more like asking yourself how you can nourish yourself. And that does look like healthy boundaries, but not restrictions. Those are different. So instead of saying something like, I'm cutting out all sugar, maybe you say, I'm going to see how I can eat more veggies this week and maybe get a little bit more protein in my late afternoon snack. Instead of, I need to get to the gym every day this week, maybe you say, how can I get outside for 10 minutes a day most days this week? Get more sunshine, get more movement, get more groundedness with the earth so that I'm not just on a screen as well and dissociating. Instead of saying no more doom scrolling, maybe I promise myself I'll get to bed half an hour earlier each night and really prioritize high quality sleep, like do all of that sleep hygiene stuff that you've been putting off, but not again from the perspective of I've been a bad person and I need to get in line. Be like, no, man, wouldn't it feel good to get more sleep? Okay, I know that the screen feels good, but I can do this. I can go to bed earlier because it's just going to feel so good in the morning. By the way, that has always been my best go-to if a part of me wants to go to dieting to take more control. If I can intervene with my wise self, I come up with a plan for more sleep and everything sorts itself out. And the best part is I feel better. I feel more rested. I feel loved. I feel taken care of. And I don't feel restricted from. I actually feel like I've given myself more. I don't want as many carbs, but that's not the point. I gave myself more love and in the form of sleep. So the point of this step is to find a way to meet the core need in a loving and nourishing way. No more forcing yourself to behave better or to be perfect, okay? I think most people are afraid of this type of a step because they're afraid they're going to spoil themselves into overindulgence. But here's the thing. This method is not about indulgence. That's this side, isn't it? The overindulgence side, that's a part. Love, real love has healthy boundaries, but it does them with compassion and validation. So you'll never hear me tell you to validate yourself and then wallow in the story all day long or all week long. I will always recommend that you validate yourself and that you sit with the emotions and maybe even name all the stories that are coming up. But then the wise adult also steps in and says, well, we're not going to sit here and wallow in the stories. We're going to find a more balanced way to move forward. Those are healthy adult boundaries. You've got both validation and love and healthy boundaries. Okay, that's what tenderness is. So let's wrap up by going over these steps one more time. First, I want you to identify that you're criticizing yourself or that voice is kicking in, trying to fix yourself, and identify what the criticism or shame is that's going on in your head. Step number 2, I want you to figure out what it's trying to prevent for you, the rejection, the exclusion, whatever that is, the shaming from other people. Step 3, I want you to name what it's trying to create in your life, earn in your life, or keep in your life. Belonging, love, acceptance, all of those things. Next and hardest, I want you to thank it, validate it, stop fighting it, and start to befriend it, start to parent it, start to love this part, because you're going to start taking over and meeting the needs so it doesn't have to do this anymore. That's the beautiful thing. I want you to love it because it's lovable and it doesn't deserve to do this job anymore. But I also want you to love it because once you do that, it doesn't need to do this job anymore. And you can actually find the thing that you want through an avenue of care instead of pain. Next, I want you to start to provide that safety to the part, the acceptance, the promise not to abandon it like you've been accidentally doing all this time and it's been suffering the whole time. And finally, I want you to find out what is out of balance, what triggered that shame. By the way, that doesn't always mean something was out of balance. Maybe this is just simply an old story that's coming down. In that case, your job is to validate the pain of it and just stop at step 5. I am going to love myself even if other people reject me for this thing that is not wrong with me, that I'm not out of balance on. I'm good. Okay. By the way, when you're out of balance, I'm still not saying something's wrong with you at all. I'm saying though, are you in alignment with your own values? and what you mean to do for yourself that's truly healthy for you, not based on society standards, if that's the case, I do want you to take the opportunity to go ahead and get back in balance. So again, step 5, provide the full acceptance and love. And if this is just some stupid societal standard and you are not actually out of balance with your alignment or your standards, don't worry about step 6. But take a look at it just to make sure. Am I breaking any of my own boundaries lately? And if I am, how can I get into balance in a loving and compassionate way? So I hope this helps you, first of all, reaffirm that shame really is never the answer. It isn't. And that there are many parts of you that are suffering because of this system, not to mention you. You are suffering because of this system. Shame doesn't work. It only hurts us. The results do not last. And you have the opportunity to do it in such a beautiful way now, in a way that actually makes you feel whole and complete and wonderful in the process. That's the whole point. Okay? The journey isn't the end. It is now. And so I'll wrap up with a beautiful quote that I saw from Abraham Hicks just today. You cannot have a happy ending to an unhappy journey. So enjoy the process. Don't just get to the destination. That, my friend, is because I want you to stop chasing and I want you to start choosing. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Resourced Podcast. My hope is that you learned at least one practical tool you can apply to your life today to move in the direction of your dreams. If you found this content helpful, be sure to hit the subscribe button, leave a review, and consider subscribing to my email list, which is linked in the show notes. And remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. What step will you take today?